Everyone who hears this is going to think that it is illegal, but like it's not. Somebody could hit a website, they could leave without filling out a form, and you could get an email address from that person. What? And then furthermore, I heard that it was legal in the US, which was crazy to me because like everything that I had been told as someone who owned an email company was that is illegal. Yeah. Right. And like emailing someone who didn't opt in is illegal.
I actually thought that when I first met you. I'm like, uh-oh, this guy's doing illegal thing.
Yeah, but like it's not, right? So like it just presents this really interesting opportunity. It's like, it's sort of so sensitive from a privacy standpoint. And the technological backdrop is really misunderstood also. It has created this amazing competitive environment where people were unwilling to enter the market because of all of these reasons.
Mission Daily.
Sick.
You're on Mission Daily. Adam.
I'm excited to be here.
Welcome to the show.
I'm excited we're friends.
I'm excited we're friends too. This is why you are here. We met, I was thinking earlier, I'm like, we met at a D2C dinner.
Yep.
And I remember you were like, so you're in D2C? And I was like, no.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do? You have a D2C company? And you're like, no. But I'm like, we're like, okay, I don't know if you knew anyone really there. I definitely didn't know anyone. And that's how this friendship started. So since then it's evolved into a amazing friendship. Yeah. So how I want to start this interview is I want to hear, how would someone describe you right now?
Wow.
This phase of life that you're in. And they were like, oh, I know Adam, or I think I know him. Coming from the huge audience you have on LinkedIn, how would they describe you?
Is this a friend of mine or someone who's in my audience
someone who's
on
probably
LinkedIn?
In your audience following you right now. Okay. They think they know you.
Someone who thinks that they know me thinks that I am a bootstrapped SaaS founder who is like irreverent and kind of like living life to communicate the struggle to this group of people who is the audience. Mm-hmm. That's what I think they would say. What do you think?
No, I do think, people would say this is an entrepreneur SaaS company, and he pulls me into his life and shows me the whole journey, the good, the bad. I mean, looking at your LinkedIn, you do things that most people don't do. So you're building this company right now, and you do things like opening up your financials and showing everyone how much money you're making and how much money you're losing. Like, you do things very differently.
Yes.
So I do think that's a good description, that people think he's opening up his whole life and showing us what it takes to build a company.
So I'm not delusional. I'm not like narcissistic. It's like, oh, I'm glad that you think the same thing. Yeah. That's good.
So before we get into the company you're building now and everything you're doing, I actually want to go back to your first company you had, because there were some stories that you've shared with me before that I remember being like, what the fuck? Like, this is insane, your journey around that. So let's go back to that first company, the beginning of your journey. Tell me about that.
Well, like what got me started, my desire to be an entrepreneur was I got a job at Lehman Brothers, which is a now defunct investment bank. And I was a credit default swap trader for 10 years. There's a movie about it, which actually is very accurate, called The Big Short. Yeah. It really creates that world well. And I show up in New York and I'm rooming with 4 guys, one of which is a dude I went to high school with and his 2 friends from college. And they're building this website called Vimeo. Literally, we show up in like day one. Like, I remember walking into this little room that 2 of them were sitting in and looking at, like, in Dreamweaver, like V1 of this baby blue homepage that was like Vimeo and like a little, you search bar or whatever. And I watched that happen while I, had this finance career, and I really wanted to do that. Just like start this tech company and like work with a bunch of young, fun people in this like cool loft. Like, it was my dream. The financial crisis happened. By just dumb luck, exactly what I was doing did really well in these like chaos scenarios.
Because you were doing credit default swaps.
Yeah. And like, also this crazy thing happened where I like kind of didn't make any money until like right before Lehman went bankrupt. And so Barclays brought everybody over and like paid us these astronomical bonuses. And I had a huge year afterwards, and then it was all done. Like, kind of like, and I got paid a ton of money one year and like 0 the next year. And I was like, I really don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. I'm going to go try to do what these Vimeo guys did.
How long were you living with these Vimeo guys? I mean, were you watching this whole platform be built under your nose?
So we probably lived together for like 3 or 4 years. And then it was just a part of my, I was in the social circle with them. So like I felt like on the weekends I was like brought along on this, I don't think I had the vocabulary to articulate why, but it was clear to me they were getting much more out of what they were doing. Yeah. They were much more excited about it than what I was.
Having way more fun than
and
you.
I just, now I think they were building something that was growing. It's like very obvious. And like, that's not what a credit default swap trader does.
Yeah.
It's just not. Like, it's like the opposite of that. If there's a polar opposite, it's like the other end of the spectrum. And I think as humans, we want that. Like, that's why kids make us feel the way they do. And, we want, and that's why it's like so painful if you're in like a contracting environment at a company rather than a growing one. And like growth is so satisfying. It's evolution, we're just wired for it. That is why I think I'm so thankful that I sort of made it to the other side, which is like really hard to do because it's just so hard to explain to somebody like, nothing. Like, I don't know many people that literally were doing one thing and like the thing that they evolved into had nothing to do with the other thing. There are some.
Yeah.
I've met a few.
Mine.
Yeah.
I mean, I was working at Fannie Mae, finance, all that.
Exactly.
Google.
So you're an example, but like I know a lot of people who it didn't work for. And I also know a lot of people who started companies that were like salespeople at a similar business, or like they they understood the startup game and they understood product and like managing people and like all of this stuff that like for me it was
yeah. Do you think that you got good lessons from that time period? Because I always look back at my 9-to-5 life and I'm like, I feel like it was helpful for me to see the other side of things and to learn certain structures. I learned a lot of team structures. Especially working at Google, not really Fannie Mae. That was more looking at their whole book of business and being like, oh, that's what I shouldn't do when I own a home. Okay. Yeah. But for other places, especially within Google, I learned how to manage, how to hire people, how to scale things, how to kill off, business units that weren't working. And there's a lot that I take into my company now just from seeing it or being a part of it. Do you feel like you had that same experience, or was it just helpful just to jump right into entrepreneurship?
Trading is the worst. I read this great book by Steve Schwartzman, who's the Blackstone CEO. He worked at Lehman and he was describing how Lehman is. And I'd never heard anyone describe how Lehman was. I didn't know. I basically worked 2 places, at Lehman Brothers and at my own companies. So like, I don't know what it's like anywhere else. And he's like, Lehman is the most cutthroat. Like, okay, Goldman Sachs is cutthroat, but it's like much more political. Lehman is like an every man for himself war. And that very accurately describes it. Trading in particular, I was not given 1 second of guidance or instruction. It was literally like, answer the phones and make sure the trades are booked correctly. And then one day, a girl that I was backing up got pregnant. And all of a sudden I had her book until she came back, and she never came back. But one conversation per year with your manager. It's like, God, this is what you're going to get paid this year. Deal with it or whatever. And that was what a lot of the reasons that I was able to sort of figure out my life afterwards. If you have the ability to just get in the middle of things and figure out how everything works, it's like you need that for both of those jobs.
Yep.
But all of that stuff that you're talking about, I'm just learning about it now. Like I've kind of ran small companies for the most part. Like we have 60 employees now, which is not, hundreds, but it's like enough. Like it's basically the same structure as hundreds. And like, I am really like, we're rolling out this thing called Entrepreneur Operating System. And like, I didn't even know what processes were until now. I knew what the word meant, but I didn't know what it meant to do things a certain way, and like sort of role definition, and like how to, appropriately manage expectations with people, all of this, like, because, you start these companies, it's a bunch of super highly productive lone wolves. Like there's no communication problem. There's no sort of like, so yeah, I'm just learning all of this stuff now that it sounds like you had the benefit of, learning on someone else's nickel, which is nice.
It is nice if it's a good nickel to learn on.
Yeah, Google's a pretty good, I mean, it used to be a pretty good nickel.
No,
I think
it was.
still is.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely had also good managers matter. Bad managers also are helpful because you can be like, I don't want to be that ever.
Totally.
So all good on both sides. So then you were making a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, like at what point did you decide that you wanted to still do your own thing?
So the short story there is like, I moved to London with a bunch of other people, and our boss was really convicted that Europe was going to have one of these leverage unwinds, and it would be like a correlation one down trade, like happened in 2008. Like everything went down at once, and it was just this vicious cycle. And he sent a bunch of people over there. Everyone got short. No one made money. He donated everyone. Some people had families and needed to stick it out. I was like, I don't need to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I was like at the perfect position in my life. I was like 29 or 30. And I could just be like, I'm going to take what I have saved and like, see if I can pursue this dream.
Mm-hmm. What was your dream? Did you
like start literally like what I said before, just like, I want to start a startup. And I kept this loft. I kept this loft that these guys started this company in Tribeca. And I'm like, I want to start a startup in this loft and like have fun and like do what these guys were doing. Cause it was like, it looked so cool 7 years earlier. And I did it. And at one point there were 38 people coming to that loft every day. It was like so bad. Never again.
Wow.
Ever again.
I mean, the power of vision though, to like hold on to that vision and then circle back to it and not knowing when, but then when the time came being like, yep, I'm going back to that. I mean, how did you hold on to that vision for so long when you're working a 9-to-5 or probably honestly like way longer than that?
London didn't work out. I ended up making like a really rushed move back to New York. I took a job for a horrible boss, as you mentioned, that was never going to work out. But I just like couldn't. I feel like with the benefit of time and maturity, like everyone that I knew, I'm sure was looking at that move and going, "That's not going to work." Like this guy's just sort of beside himself right now and making rush decisions. And then kind of got booted from that. And then I was looking at, it was a contracting environment at the time because the government was like regulating this whole derivatives market, and there were just too many people doing it for the amount of like opportunity there was, and volatility was going down, like all bad things. And I was looking at my opportunities, and it's like, well, I'm not going to take a bad job. I just remember my closest friend from that Vimeo story was like, what if I just like took a year and hung out with people doing stuff in tech? Like, is that crazy? He's like, no, it's probably a good idea. Try. So, I mean, it started this long journey of I was hanging out with the wrong people who had no idea what they were doing. Neither did I.
What's the example of the wrong person?
I mean, just people who like were trying to do this, like, it's just really hard to explain when the first thing you do is try to be a founder of a company when you know nothing about how the game works.
Yeah.
And you're hanging out with other people who are also in that boat, who are trying to start companies and have no idea how the game works.
Yeah.
Like you're just all lost, but you don't realize it. You think you're all Zuckerberg and like, this is how it worked for him.
Yep.
I
actually saw that a lot when I was in DC. I would go to these different founder meetups. And I remember at one point being like, does anyone actually know what's going on in this space? And it wasn't until I moved out to San Francisco that I was like, okay, I feel like there's some little nuggets of wisdom in these groups of people. And DC was just not where it was at for that. At least the groups that I was in. I'm sure they have some. But.
Yeah. And, it just is what it is. There's no other, you can either learn it somewhere else or it is going to take you a really long time if you get lucky, in my opinion, to figure it out yourself and be very expensive.
Yeah. So how did you shift to find the right people to then actually stumble on what you wanted to work on?
Really, it's just like my first company. I had this crazy idea, which was so dumb. But like I had a sort of mentor figure at Lehman who was like a sales guy, but he had made a lot of money doing sales, and he had a lot of stuff going on the side, which like seemed really interesting because he was always on the phones talking about like he owned a Ferrari dealership and he like owned a bunch of land in Florida and like this business and that business or whatever. And now I got involved with a company that he worked with. He's on like the board of this public company that like literally went to zero. It was just this like healthcare thing. Like I put a bunch of money in and like tried to help him or whatever, how, I don't know. But that is what I thought I was going to do, like be this sort of active investor who set atop like 5 things and didn't really focus on any of them and somehow helped, which now I think is like the dumbest. This is dumb. Now I understand that he just owns a bunch of cheap, poorly managed, bad assets that keep getting cheaper, you know, because they're poorly managed bad assets. And I think it's a tremendous waste of time. Like, he's such a gifted guy. Like, he should like really hone in on one thing and he would have done incredibly well. But I don't think he has had the benefit of the lessons of starting something from zero and like really understanding why things work and why certain things do not. Which I think you can only understand when you do that. It's very weird. It's like,
you gotta start from the beginning.
Yeah, no, I mean, and you just have to feel things working. I don't think there's any other way. And it's not like you get dropped into this system and you're like, it's sort of moving with or without you and like whatever. Which
kind of goes against a lot of the semi-influencers nowadays who are like, get back to the, you know, just go buy car dealerships, go buy laundry mats and like get in there and just take over and make it better.
Yeah, I mean, that's just good content. That's the problem. It's like, I think content like that makes you dream. It's like, yeah, my 9-to-5 sucks. I could own a bunch of car dealerships and like pay myself dividends. Like, surely I could have this person YouTubing about it who probably doesn't even do that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, we're in a weird world where, and that's, I think, another reason why people like my stuff, because they actually know that I'm doing it, you know, and like, it's not that content that's like, everything will be great if you buy a laundromat, because that's effectively what the YouTube message is. It's like,
which is the downside to media nowadays.
Yeah, like, well, here's all these baby boomers don't want their laundromats anymore. So like, we got to come in and buy them. And you're going to be, amazing if it does. And like, I don't know. I think if you're really early on, that's appealing. And then like middle of the road, you kind of see what's going on there.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the appeals to how I'm sort of positioning the stuff I'm doing.
Yeah. So let's talk about what you're doing.
10 weeks ago, I started a new business called RB2B. And that's what I sent you that script for before it was like a website.
Okay. Maybe back up to the one before that and then get to this script.
So before that, it was retention.com.
Yeah. And what is retention.com?
So the core technology is person level website visitor identity. So somebody can, in the company when I started, it was called Get Emails. My first company was an email company, and it was so hard, and I was trying everything to get it to grow, and I couldn't get it to grow. And I came across this notion, this idea, someone told me it was possible, and I didn't see it anywhere, that somebody could hit a website, they could leave without filling out a form, and you could get an email address from that person. I was like, what? And then furthermore, I heard that it was legal in the US, which was crazy to me because like everything that I had been told as someone who owned an email company was that like, that is illegal. Yeah. Right. And like emailing someone who didn't opt in is illegal.
I actually thought that when I first met you. I'm like, uh-oh, this guy's doing illegal things.
Yeah, but like, it's not, right? So like, it just presents this really interesting opportunity. It's like everyone who hears this is going to think that it is illegal, but it is not, and like, it's sort of so sensitive from a privacy standpoint, and the technological backdrop is really misunderstood also. So it just creates this, until now, it has created this amazing competitive environment where people were unwilling to enter the market because of all of these reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first met you, we were trying to use 6 Sense, which I'm not trying to get you in trouble. I know 6 Sense apparently threatened to sue you. I don't want to.
I mean, they hate me so much. It's so great.
But I was like, well, I better not talk about this on here. But we were using them. And I remember being like, but I feel like what you have is what I thought I was buying. But then I just dropped $20,000 on something that actually doesn't get me what I want.
Yeah.
And then.
Yeah. I mean, so in that company, Get Emails like ended up being a very good product for e-commerce companies. And
you scaled that one quickly. Like how?
Yeah. So like it's 22 million ARR with a mega churn problem in 4 years. So like that's pretty good for something with a mega churn problem, right? Like if it didn't, it's just kind of a category issue more than anything else. It's like the nature of it is just going to like be high churn.
Because it was D2C, right?
The buyer persona being D2C small business is also high churn, but like, you know, when it's just this problem with SaaS. But basically, whenever you're selling leads or intent data, there's just a lot of reasons why someone would stop using that. That like, if you compare it to like a CRM, for instance, there's only one reason someone's going to stop. Two reasons. One, you go out of business. Two, you use another CRM.
Yeah. I mean, also there's only, at least for us, there's only so big of a list size. At a certain point, I don't need that much data that frequently anymore.
Yeah.
After I export all the ones I want. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. There's just 10 reasons why someone would stop using it. So yeah, given how, you know, kind of bad, quite frankly, the churn profile is, it's really amazing that it is where it is. And it's hard now. There's competitors and there's, you know, it's just, it's frustrating, but it's frustrating because it's not growing like I thought I was going to grow. But that's where that one's at.
Yeah. Okay. So then jump to, so you sent me a script a couple weeks ago.
So I have this, you know, we were talking about Santosh before the show. I have this COO that I convinced. So like this 18 months ago, I had 6 employees and we were at like 12 million ARR. And basically I thought that I was observing things that like, if we honed in on this ideal customer profile and we like built a real company, it would be like a unicorn twice over. So like, I didn't have the confidence in myself to go do this because I'd never done it before. And I got this really experienced B2B data guy, Santosh Sharan, who like all the big data companies, he literally was like there when it was 5 million ARR and like left when it was unicorn. And he was like the guy who was like doing it all. Somehow convinced this guy to be my COO because like so many good things are happening. And the whole time this like ramp up was occurring with our staff, he's like, oh, we need to sell this to B2B. Like the leads are so much more valuable. Like if it works for selling $100 shoes, like it's going to work for selling $50,000 software. Like that's just very intuitive, right? Like, and he's like, no one's doing it. They're all doing what Sixth Sense is doing. And that's ubiquitous, but like people need to know like who the person is on their site and let's go do this. So I was like, no. There's, you know, first it was like 2023 was like a period of immense euphoria and then just like ratcheting down expectations for me. And finally our company got to the point where I felt like we could pull some people off to work on something else. And that's what this new company is. We finally launched it 10 weeks ago and it's just been totally insane.
So this is a whole new company that you built.
Yeah. So like it's still, you know, like, corporate structure wise, I think you would call it a product line, but like it's a new website. It's a new back end that does a totally different type of resolution than our other product does, with a different team in a different market and a different go-to-market motion. And like nothing about the two companies overlap in any way, if that makes sense. So it's like, to me, it's like my third startup. Like there's nothing like anything else I've ever done.
Yeah. At what point do you look at like retention.com and be like, if this has such high churn, it's hard. I'm just going to focus on the one that's doing really good now.
I mean, that's what I am doing.
Oh, you are. So what's happening with retention.com?
You know, I handed it off to my co-founder, Diana, is now running it and trying to like clean up the operational stuff. And then, you know, basically like what you do in the situation that we're in is you make a play up market. So like we're trying to like come up with what that looks like. It'll have its challenges, but I think there's room for them to like make another push up.
Okay. So this new company, I mean, you were giving this product away for free. I got it for free. Everyone got it for free if they wanted it. I was sharing it. I mean, I feel like it was super, at least from my perspective, it was very easy for me to share with people and be like, look, this is my friend's company. He's awesome. I'm using it.
And it's free.
And here's like, what it's doing.
Yeah. How couldn't you?
Yeah. I mean, I was telling some of my bigger clients about it, like some of our sponsors who are enterprise companies. So tell me about that, of like giving something away for free. What have you learned so far?
So like when I started my entrepreneurial journey, none of this would have made any sense to me. I would have been like, influencers are stupid. That guy's trying to be famous. He's an egomaniac. Free stuff sucks. You'll never make money. Like those would have been my thoughts. And then this space that I was in, this email newsletter space, like MailChimp, I started learning about the space at the end of 2011. And I think 2 years prior, they'd started this freemium offering. No one knew how well it was working. But I had heard, I had this feeling because I just kept seeing the sort of magnitude of the stunts that they were doing increase in like, it just kind of seemed like everyone was using this thing. And I started seeing billboards in New York, and like in 2010, they were like a 2 million ARR company, it was like just this crazy thing. And then we all know what happened. Like they sold without $1 of external capital for like 10 times what the pioneer of the space, Constant Contact, who also had a pretty good outcome, sold. And I've just been so deeply affected by that. So like Charlie Munger, rest in peace, he has this phrase called Lollapalooza effects. And it's like, there's all of these different, I think he calls them disciplines in the world. And sometimes you can get a few different things like physics and spirituality in like, psychology to like interact.
Are you listening to my Mission Daily episodes?
And it just creates this amazing thing. And for me, it wasn't all at once. It's the journey of this product was very strange because Santosh was pushing me to do it and we weren't ready yet, but I was like, well, I'm going to start writing my LinkedIn content to B2B people and see if it does any better. And then it was just like, boom, like I was like, what? So it took a year to get 20,000 followers. And then I got 20,000 in a week when I started writing about B2B, and the slope of the line went from this to this, and it's still like this. So like, it's like, well, that's interesting. Certainly, this is an incredible megaphone for a product into that space. So then we're like, all right, let's like start throwing the script to like a few people and see if they like what we do. Mm-hmm. And the feedback was like, okay, when we were sending a spreadsheet. Meanwhile, my B2B content is crushing. So I'm like, that's cool. We're sending spreadsheets to people. They're like, this is probably useful, but that was kind of how they were saying it in aggregate. And I was like, okay, this will be a high churn product category because I'm selling leads again. And like whenever you try to sell leads as a SaaS, it's just people are going to stop using it. Since strangely I have a brand in this space now and everybody is reading these posts, I'm going to start with a lower churn buyer persona, upmarket, mid-market B2B companies, and like have a sales led motion. And do this. And then Tate's like, I'm going to push this into Slack. Then we're like, man, what if we put a headshot in there? And like, I would just show this to people and like the look on their face, there was something so much more magical about that than the spreadsheet. Yep.
Because it shows there's a human, an actual human there.
Yeah. And like, I was like, wow, so like the content thing is borderline magical. Mm-hmm. I don't see anyone who's sort of getting this kind of feedback from LinkedIn. Yeah. I have this magical moment that I can create with nearly everyone that has a website that people visit. Mm-hmm. I wonder if this is my opportunity to do this MailChimp thing and take this incredibly valuable product and just like give it away.
Yeah. How many people were you testing with to know, okay, this is a good idea because people got excited with it?
Well, literally I think we had like 20 people that we were sending spreadsheets to over email, and probably like half of them were like, meh, and half of them were like, yeah, I'd pay you like whatever, like $100, $500 for this or whatever. The Slack thing, whether they liked it in a month or not, up in the air, every single person that I showed my phone to, I'm like, these people were on my website in the last 10 minutes. They're like, what? It was just this moment of absolute magic. So then it's like, okay, I have this magical LinkedIn thing that I think that I can keep leaning into, and it'll keep getting better because I think I have this angle that will continue cutting through because I think that I'm looking at it differently than everybody else. And I don't think even if someone tried to copy it, they really could, because it's like,
why? I mean, because I think most people looking at you now would say, how do I do what you did? Because you went from what I remember, you had almost no following.
Yeah, none.
Yeah.
No, like a year ago, and I say this when I'm doing keynotes, I'm like, last July, I would not have even been invited to this. Yeah. This is what's so strange about it. And now like the room is full and you all think that I'm like some sort of guru,
Yeah.
right? Like it's just the weirdest thing that happened. And it's a result of this machine, you know, it's so crazy. But I just think I'm willing to say things that people are not willing to say.
So people could maybe copy the format if they were trying to be authentic.
But I think also I am getting to the point where I have perspective and credibility that not many people have, who's bootstrapped to 20 million ARR SaaS in 4 years.
Yeah.
There's probably 20, 30 people, you know?
And you have somewhere to lead them. I know we were talking about this before the interview. Most people don't have somewhere to bring their followers to, or it's a mixed match in like what they talk about versus what they have to sell.
Right. Which was the problem I was having when I was trying to make content to generate e-commerce leads. It was doing a lot for awareness in the ecosystem. Like every agency knew me, all the tech partners were all about it. Which is super helpful, by the way. Like it was helping for recruiting because people can go and like see what you're all about and your values and everything. Investors just all over me. But it was not generating leads for us with e-commerce stores at all, period, full stop. Maybe like one every couple weeks. But and then this is just like the most unbelievable thing in the world because there's this magical fit all of a sudden, like, so like I'm not a Shopify store owner. So like, why is someone going to read my content instead of Nick Sharma's who owns a Shopify store and, you know, works with them every day? They're not is the answer, right? Like that's just it. Like they might, like I tried to make stuff that was like universal about business, but that's broad and that's not. So like what people say about my stuff now is like, it articulates a certain type of pain so clearly that unless you were the CEO of a SaaS company attempting to scale it in 2023, you could not write in those words, you know? And that's something ChatGPT can't do.
Yeah.
You know? So I think there's just so much perceived downside to sharing as much information as I share at the stage I'm at. I think that's really what makes it really hard. And most people, their investors won't let them.
Yeah.
They think that it's going to help the competition, which I think is total BS because I think the awareness that you get from doing stuff like that and the fact that it breaks through so hard is so much more beneficial than, I mean, your competitors are going to find out what you're doing anyway, right? Yeah. There's all sorts of ways. So, so that's just a view that I have. By the way, like it took me 12 months to like crack it, right? So like, even if you like copying doesn't ever work. So like, even if someone was in a similar position and they tried to like really do exactly what I was doing, they would have to come up with their way to break through because they're not going to break through as me in the same way because like I'm already doing it.
Yeah. No, I do think the like authenticity though will be, you know, the new thing that will break out in the future because
I hope.
I mean, everyone is trying to do ChatGPT stuff now and you can see it. It's very obvious.
Yes.
So I do think eventually things will shift. Where right now, a lot of AI generated content is actually still working pretty okay for some people. But I think there will be a moment where it's like, wait, who actually has good thought leadership content where there's a human element to it, there's authenticity, and I feel connected with the person. And it's not just doing thought leadership for thought leadership's sake. I do think that's the one, at least for us anyways, the guiding principle of like, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing, which is putting out the things that we think are good and most interest us and brings us our highest excitement. That's like my new thing in life. What brings me the highest excitement? And so I think if you do that for long enough, you can become good at anything as long as you stay true to that.
I totally agree with that. And it's like the authenticity thing for me, it's been my principle since day one. I shared an office with Jasper and I watched that thing crush and I'm like, it's very clear to me what's going to happen. The amount of grade B sludge that gets put out is just going to get increased by 1000x. So it's like, what can ChatGPT not do? And B, how can I be the maximum authentic version of myself on the screen? And my answer is like just unbelievable amount of detail about the shitty parts of the journey and video. And like, I'm trying to work more narrative in, which I think is like the next big thing.
Which I want to talk about this. I remember the other day we were at coffee and you dropped some number of what you were spending to create video.
Yeah, I mean, and so like the problem is like you can't even see it yet. You can't even see what it's doing, which is like a battle that I have with my finance department, which I love that they're conservative, but like it's always like, well, you know, these video people, like if you really ask me why you're breaking out, it's because of Alec, your LinkedIn team, and like okay, well, you were beating me up about them a year ago. And now you're like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
And so now you're trying to do a whole video, like docu-series, right?
Yeah. Well, I did one. And by the way, like they think that it's awesome. Like the product. So the reason I hired these people full time is like the product that came out. So like I have a YouTube page that's no followers. Mm-hmm. It's got like 800 followers, which maybe is a lot, but it's not. So, and there's a docuseries on it called $1 Billion Challenge. I made it last year. We filmed basically like I did one Zoom interview per week with Christy, who was like a contractor, and John, who's also contracting, followed me when I traveled. And for 14 months, it distilled down into 18 10-minute episodes. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have a big LinkedIn following at the time. I didn't have the right content market fit, author to platform to audience fit or whatever. And so it was not properly contextualized for LinkedIn, but like the comments that would come back is like, this is the best business content I've ever seen in my life. Mm-hmm. So like I had this feeling that, and it was like a documentary, like, look, I was like, oh, this is a unicorn twice over. I'm just going to film what it's like to go from 6 people to a unicorn in a year. I'm going to go from, and it didn't happen, right? I said we were going to be 50 million by the end of the year. We weren't, we were 21. But it was about living the life inside of that madness and like sort of documenting, my emotional journey really more than anything else, right? Like all of this excitement and then all crashing down. I didn't know that was going to happen, but that's what did happen. And people were like literally relative to anything else out there, this is just so incredible as business content. So I'm like, I got to hire this girl because mm-hmm. like, I don't know what I'm going to like do with her, but like, if people are saying that, then that's a superpower and no one else has it. And it's like you have to be in such a weird position to make that type of investment because it like doesn't make financial sense. You have to go through a really long period of time where you're not seeing anything. Mm-hmm. And like, I just have to be like, okay, Kelly, I know you don't like this, but like, I'm going to pay this girl and her producer for this year. And you're going to let me do it because it's my company.
That is so this is actually something that happens to me often where my COO will be like, Steph, don't do it. I'm like, I have to. I need to hire this person. I need this thing. And it might work and it might not, but I just have to.
Yeah. So it's very much that. And by the way, we're going to make another series of a season of docuseries later this year, but she's helping me like, so if your audience is on LinkedIn, one of the problems with LinkedIn is it's not a sequential platform, meaning mm-hmm. it will serve you and my mom post, you got 6 months ago, she got yesterday's, and like it'll swap them. Yeah. So like you can't they'll get episode 12 not knowing what it is. Yeah. So my thought is the way that I make people, I think the power of this thing and how it's benefiting us the most is it's certainly creating some haters, especially this thing that I did with Sixth Sense, whatever. But like, I think that's kind of part of it. It's necessary, but like, it's also creating this group of people. Like I just see it. I like go to events and people will walk up to me and say crazy things like, you are the most inspirational person in my life. And the fact that the primary marketing vehicle for a business can also be creating that feeling in people is just A, it'll keep me going on for a long time. And B, that's just amazing, right? So it's like, that's making them feel like they're almost a brother to me, or I am to them, or like certainly a best friend, kind of like a partner in all of this together. And then it's like, what is going to accelerate that feeling? For me, it's 2 things. One, creating standalone narrative that's like a Black Mirror episode that are these crazy stories that I have, that every entrepreneur has, by the way. And making the perfect story in 3,000 characters, and then a video asset that like sort of starts as the talking head that people are trained to stop and watch, but then like slips into like another format, mm-hmm. and then they get kind of duped into watching the rest of it. So like that's while we're like kind of filming to like get content for later this year, that's going to be this, there is no way you could ever measure whether it's worth what I'm spending on this or not, mm-hmm. because it probably won't get as good a reach as the other stuff does, but the reach that it gets, these people are going to, they're going to be talking about my stuff and my products, even if they don't use it. Yeah. And that's kind of my thing about it. It's like, if I start hearing that people are telling my stories to each other, if people are walking up to me being like, oh, my friend told me about this thing that happened to you where like your developers deleted your site like 2 weeks before you were getting paid $10 million. Like if that starts happening, then it's like, I don't know how you would get more out of this medium than that, you know? But it's like a super ambitious thing. And then now I think that I have the audience and the platform and the content market fit or whatever. And I don't currently have what I call like a binge bin. Like I've made so much content and there's nowhere people can go to see the best stuff. So we just bought this thing from Anthony Canetta called Audience Plus. And the idea is, you know, it's kind of like a community page. It's just like a reimagined blog where it's like a multimedia, no code, really beautiful landing page that you can put all sorts of different like content in. So like people can go and just like spend 2 hours and like crush a bunch of stuff, which like LinkedIn is not that. No one would ever, maybe they read a couple posts, but it's like I did this stunt on LinkedIn where like, you know, I get blasted on Glassdoor because like twice I've had to lay off a bunch of people and I refuse to like put people, you know, I'm so much about authenticity that I like refuse to manipulate it stupidly. I did like a mean tweets. I haven't even looked at it since 2015. I know what people wrote, but I like did not know what our star rating was. And I had never read an actual negative review about me or our company. And our video girl for 45 minutes texted me these reviews. First, she texted me our rating, which is like 2 stars out of 5, which is not how people feel about, like, we know we have 80% participation in our company surveys and it's not 2 out of 5, right? Like, in like all of the, like for 45 minutes, it was just me reading horrible things about myself and this thing that I spend my whole life on. And it was so hard. And then she sent me a nice one. I was like, I just want to hug this person. You know, it was just the strangest thing. Anyway, there's no way you could see that because it's like buried in LinkedIn. It's gone. And it doesn't have this SEO thing that YouTube has. So it's like, you know, I'm trying to like get creative and do these things that I know you also believe in, but like do it in a way that's contextualized for this platform that like I'm sort of amassing this incredibly valuable audience on.
I love it.
Yeah.
So when thinking about some of your stories, I feel like you said, every entrepreneur has been through many things. I know some of your stories. How do you feel like you act different now, or how do you think different now than maybe building your first company? Like, what things do you do to stay in the game? What things do you do to not let really terrible reviews completely take you down for a whole week, or, you know, losing code overnight and maybe not being able to sell your company rock you in a way that just ruins your whole life? Like, what do you do now?
Well, I mean, the last question, it solved itself in 16 hours. It was everything that, you know, I walked around, like, it's like, so for 12 hours, we didn't know whether it was gone or not, literally 50-50. It was like the backup was corrupted and they were like, the backup company was like, I don't know if it's here or not. Like, all we know is that it's a corrupted backup. It's not a complete backup.
And this is like what you sold. Like, this code was your company and this is what you sold.
Whole code base gone.
Yeah.
Transaction closing, we were getting wired $10 million in 2 weeks. So like, and by the way, like, but we had started this other company that it was clear that it was going to be bigger. So I just walked around Austin with my little 6-pound dog, Bonnie. And I just told myself over and over again, it's only money, which is not. It's not only money. It's like 7 years of like, you know, a bunch of people's lives that like, it's just devastating. And that, you know, it would be, I have my health, I have my family, I have this. Tried to like lower my expectations to accepting that it was gone. And I had like all of this other positive stuff in my life that like, it's not really over. And luckily I was pleasantly surprised. I think we were talking about this earlier, like the free thing is like a great example of like how I think so differently. I was starting to say all this, right? Like, I would have never, in the beginning of my entrepreneur career, I would have never even been interested in pursuing something as long game as this content effort that I now spend at least half my energy on. I mean, maybe even more. I would have never done this free thing, like, ever. But it's like, you know, with the changes that I observe in the world and like all the pain that I experience trying to like grow an outbound sales organization and like response rates going down and all that nonsense, like I just kind of had the clarity and the resources to be like, well, what's the total opposite of that? Like, what is going to thrive as response rates go down? Probably organic social media, you know, in this perfect sort of, you know, silo that I'm targeting, and a core offer that is inherently, like you said it yourself, it is inherently viral, right? Like, it's something that is more valuable than what is out there already, just as you describe it. And then you tack on, and it's free. Mm-hmm. So it's all very experimental. I haven't really seen, like, I saw MailChimp work, but this is really different. Like, their product, the best viral products, like as the free users are using them, there's something in them. Like, they had this stamp in the bottom right corner of all their emails that said 100% free email marketing. And that was their second biggest channel. Like, we have to somehow engineer the free users doing stuff for us, which we are 0% there right now.
So like convert them to paid in some way.
No, not convert them to paid. It's like, we'll have people that'll be free forever, but we need them to like tweet about us. Like, we need to like give them an affiliate link and a tweet, or, you know what I mean? Like, we need to get, I think our thing is like, we could create a UGC model that would grow as we grew, that would be very hard to replicate the awareness of. Mm-hmm. So like, that's kind of what I'm trying to do. But like, my attitude about the free thing is just like, I could charge and then plow it back into salespeople or marketing, or I could just give it away and just look at that as what I would have plowed back into sales and marketing. Mm-hmm. You know, and I just know it'll, you know, I just know it'll spread faster. Like, if you charge someone $1, it's like not going to move, right? But this free thing is like, we're irrational about the difference between free and $1, or like free and 50. Like, free is, there's some tremendous power to it that is amazing, you know? And strangely, like, so we launched it 10 weeks ago. We do not even have what I plan to charge for. I put out a LinkedIn post that was a 22-page document explaining, because really the fundamental problem was I expected people to pay for integrations. And then as we push into Slack, you can parse the Slack block with Zapier or with the API, and you can just put the leads where you want. So you don't even need to pay us.
Okay.
And I found that out.
I was wondering that. I was actually asking my team, I'm like, so can we scrape this out of our Slack channel?
So I found that out, and I thought it would be hilarious to make a 22-page guide about how to not pay us $495 a month. I did on LinkedIn, and people thought it was awesome. Which is kind of like, you know, this is like the spirit of my brand. Still, somehow, even though you can steal this information for us and we don't have what I plan to charge for yet, because I think we had to go a different route. Like, in 10 weeks, we have like 500,000 ARR. We have 75 people paying us $500 a month, or 80.
That's amazing. Is crazy. How many total users did you get?
Like 6,000. So like, the percentage is not great. I think we'll end up with the new thing we do, which is basically like free for 90%. But super fast two-touch sales motion for like, so there's 90% that'll never pay. And of the 10%, half of them know how to book demos and half of them don't. For the ones who don't, have sales organizations, it's a toy. They're sort of on the free funnel. And for this other half, we're like, hey, you're actually going to crush it with this if you do the right thing. You're probably not going to do the right thing. Talk to us, let us set you up. And then we get connected with like whatever rep is going to actually execute the outreach, and then see them through to their first demo book, and then like try to like get them to buy it, basically. So that's a new plan. And knowing what I know about how my last business worked, I just think it'll work like really well. And it's still got this perception that 90% of the world thinks that it's like totally free.
Yep. Yep.
You know.
So where do these, I know earlier we talked about, you know, people making content these days and what we're following and how people are learning to build companies, or, you know, maybe just buy a company and try and build it. How do you find good advice in this world today? How do you come to your, is it just all internal now, or you just observe the world and you're like, based off history, I'm doing this? Or do you follow certain people, or how do you find these ideas of what you're doing?
I find the subject of advice to be a fascinating one. I think you would argue that I'm sort of stuck right now, but not really. I think like a really experienced entrepreneur would look at my current situation, all sides of it, and be like, you're not stuck. But like, if you were just looking at retention.com and our aggregate revenue, you'd be like, you're stuck. Mm-hmm. You've had 4 down months in a row. Like, you're kind of stuck in the mud. But when I was stuck with my first company for 4 years or whatever it was, I was reaching for any information from anyone that was meaningfully ahead of me about how they got there, what they were doing, what was working, anything. And like people would show up and be like, that ran Facebook ad agencies, and they'd be like, you should run Facebook ads.
Yeah.
I can make Facebook ads work for you. I made Facebook ads work for XYZ company that actually has product market fit and is a SaaS company and you admire. So it'll work for you. It won't. No, it will not. Like I will, hopefully people are listening to this. Like, so like the things that I'm seeking advice on now are very different than then. I've kind of like, I have this belief now that if you can create something that has word of mouth, there are 1,000 things you can do to accelerate it. And it's your job to pick the lowest hanging fruit and just sort of build. If you do not have word of mouth, none of the stuff that people are saying is working for them is going to work for you, full stop. So like word of mouth sort of means product market fit in tech, but it's like, if you don't have something that's spreading on its own, so for our B2B, for this new company, it's like kind of in a thing where I feel like I've got this word of mouth. I've got a lot of experience in like dealing with this type of company. I'm not really seeking advice right now on that. We have a lot of operational issues with the 60-person company that we've hired an executive coach and he's working with 8 of us and we're rolling out this system, this accountability and like expectation system basically. And I get advice for, you know, that is unbelievably helpful. But like
from this coach.
Yeah. From this executive coach that's working with, but it's like how you run a larger company the right way, right? What putting processes in place, you know, how you look, it's hard to keep yourself focused. I think it is really hard to get 60 people to focus on what they're supposed to be focused on, especially if you want to let people think independently and like, you know, whatever, give them rope to hang themselves. So I'm thinking about this conversation I had with this other startup founder who is kind of like about where I am in his journey. And he had this business coach who really runs his business like one of these like Instagram or YouTube influencers. It's very much like waterboarding with content, which is good content, but like he's got this really high ticket escalation that happens. And this guy, who I think is a really smart dude, is like justifying paying him $250,000 a year for 4 hours under this crazy sort of like sales idea that, okay, you have a $20 million business. You know, if I can give you 10% efficiency, then that's 2 million. So like I can. And I'm trying to explain to this guy, I'm like, dude, like I kind of do this now. Like you think about him something that is not reality. Like it is impossible to watch someone. This is what I think is happening. It's like, if you watch, like, why is a priest in a pulpit? Like, why is a DJ on a stand? Like, when we sit and watch people do anything, the status of that person in our heads goes up and up and up and up and up and up. And that's like why I do this talking head stuff. A lot of the reason, it's like, that guy is not worth $250,000 to you. Unbeknownst to me, I just found out that there's like an endless supply of unbelievably qualified executive coaches that are $500 to $1,000 an hour. I have 8 people working with this guy and we pay him whatever, like 10 or 15 grand like a month or something. And like, that basically would be like the whole year of this other dude. And we're getting, you know, instead of 4 hours a year, it's 16 hours a month. And he's doing the right things for us, because you couldn't possibly do the right things for somebody in 4 hours. But like, this whole machine tricks people into thinking that these people are basically religious figures. And then, you know, look, maybe I'll be doing this someday. I really hope not, but like, who knows? But like, that's just like, you know, it's this Tony Robbins model, right? It's like you just get rich people to like think that you can solve their problems when like you can't, and like you get them to pay you, and then like it's a strange thing. That is what I think a lot of these content businesses are, because I think social media is an envy generating machine, and a business model that comes out of an envy generating machine is, you suck, I'm amazing. If you give me all of your money, I will tell you the one thing that you can do to become amazing. Mm-hmm. Super effective sales pitch. And it works across every discipline. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's my take on, and like, I really don't think what I do is that, because it's like, it's just not, you know what I mean? Like putting out monthly updates and like talking about how like my PLG is like screwed up is like not, it's just not doing that. But I think the easiest thing to do is that.
Mm-hmm. That is the environment now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a coach.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But that was just such a wild example. I'm like, dude, like, I know you love this guy, and I know he provides amazing value, and I know he's always giving you great advice. But like, I got this guy working for me who like, he was like the COO of DoubleClick for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's run 4,000 person businesses, like that all exited. Like he's never failed. You know, he's more qualified than that guy, just for sure. And like, he is available to like go into problems at a depth which will actually help us, and not just be like, I mean, I know what can you accomplish in like 4 hours or 4 days or whatever, right? It's nothing. It's just like, you gas somebody up. That's what happens. You like make them feel, it's like, are there any super obvious problems that I can see? If not, I'm just going to gas you up. And like you go leaving the gas up session with this religious figure, you feel like you got your money's worth, which is just the strangest. It's just a weird thing. Yeah. But like, I don't know. Selling art to rich people is like probably a similar.
It's working.
Yeah, no, it's like the same. It's like kind of the same. It's just like a total sort of, I don't know. Anyway, that is my rant. That is my rant on that whole thing.
Yeah. So now it sounds like you're in a space where you will get advice on niche things that you're having problems with maybe, and you'll find an expert in that space. And I'm also guessing that you're going to get a referral from someone you know and trust to find that person.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like I would never go to YouTube.
Yeah.
It's happened to me before, by the way.
Where you went to YouTube and tried to learn?
So the reason why I'm so obsessed with video and why I know this happens is because it happened to me. So like my brother, this is another great story. My brother sent me this, what my first company was called Robly. Mm-hmm. My brother was just starting a startup. He sent me a webinar where Robly was the example of what not to do in Facebook ads. When one of these idiots convinced me to do Facebook ads. And like the guy's basic premise was just like, I don't know what this company is. I don't know who they are. They're trying to sell me a 14-day trial. Like, this is just a waste of money. Like, why are they not? His point is like, of course, like you gotta, warm them up with content, all that stuff. And then I watched the webinar. I'm like, well, this is kind of a smart webinar. And the guy was super credible, which I think is like the type of people that are really good at this. So he had started BigCommerce, which is like, they were like kind of neck and neck with Shopify, and Shopify blew him out of the water. This guy, Mitch Harper, and he was doing info products for a while. And I think that he ultimately quit probably for this reason. I just think it didn't feel good. But I watched this webinar. I was like, Anthony, do you want to split his course membership for, it was $3,000 for a year? Whatever. He's like, yeah, sure. And then I didn't have much going on at the time. I was trying to figure out what was next with Robly. We hadn't sold it yet, but Ann was managing it. And like over this period in Argentina, when I was down there trying to build this dev team, I just watched this guy's 100 hours of his content for like 2 weeks in a row. It was just like me. It's just like if we sat here and talked for 2 weeks straight, but you were the one talking and I was just like, just sucking it all in. And like, you were who I was trying to be. Like, you went above Shopify, and like, I thought I needed to do that in email. And like this guy, I was just like, he knows everything, and he is me in the future, and he is what I need to do. And like, he was doing high ticket coaching. He had this, it was like this thing where you had to apply, and he wasn't taking any, customers or whatever. And it was $4,000 for 1 hour a month. And I was talking to my brother about it. He's like, well, if the guy's willing to, like, that's what private equity sort of guy would charge. If he's willing to actually think about your business. And we were like pretty cash flow positive at the time. So like, if he's willing to like give you real time, then yeah, like whatever, just do it 3-month minimum or whatever, like fine. So there was this moment, because it was like immediately after I had just watched this guy, and like I knew everything about him. I knew where he vacationed, like I knew what his family was like, I knew his routines, I knew how he managed his calendar. I just knew everything about this guy. And then I hit this Zoom with him, and I'm smiling, like people now smile at me, like he's my best friend. And he's looking at me like I'm a total fucking stranger, you know? And it was so weird, this feeling that I got, and I never had it before. And I was like, the day that I get a chance to use this power in my favor, the world is set up for this, I am going to. Mm-hmm. So this is what I think, like I would have done anything that this guy said. Mm-hmm. Not to say that I like want to do that, right? Like sort of, but it's just, like, I just believe that is what's happening with all of these, like you just follow people and it's tons of them and video and talking, like this is the new religion mm-hmm. for us.
Yep. So you have to have good actors behind the scenes with good intentions.
I mean, you hope, right? Like, I don't think you have to, which is the problem. Yeah. Like you wish.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You wish. And wish. Yeah.
That's one of the things that I think I like about what I'm doing. Like it seems, yeah, I take some jabs at people every once in a while for like attention, but like, I think that's pretty obvious when that's happening. Mm-hmm. But like, it's mostly a really positive thing, I think.
Do you think you're going to get in trouble for the jabs you take ever? So like actually in trouble?
What does that even mean?
Well, I don't know. I mean, to me, if a big company was coming after me trying to sue me, I'd be a little...
But it's like, it was so frivolous mm-hmm. that my lawyer was like, it's America, anybody can sue you. Your maximum liability is basically like a couple $100,000 of legal fees and then like a settlement of like 100 or 200, but that's going to take 4 years.
Yeah.
And that to me, if they actually sued me, is amazing, because I would get to say, they're so scared of this mm-hmm. that they're trying to eliminate it. Look, lawsuit.
Yeah.
Right. Like it would just I would be able to create the biggest PR storm ever. Mm-hmm. And I think they know that, and they're like not going to. But plus I know I can afford the lawsuit, right? Like I know that it's just like part of a marketing budget. And I think after what I did that first time, rather than like apologizing and like taking it down and tagging all the people like they said, I just like rewrote what they cease and desist me about. I think that they sort of now understand, you know, it's like they woke up in their this is just their old playbook. It's mm-hmm. like somebody says something bad about you online, you send them a cease and desist, and like they say they're sorry and it goes away. It's like, it's a new type of enemy, you know, like it was like a weird clout flex.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was hilarious. Yeah. And I do think the first time I ever got a cease and desist was this one app that I built, and it happened so quickly that I just pulled it down. I was so scared. I was like, oh my God, this company just sent me a cease and desist. I guess I better. I didn't know any better. But then it is kind of funny as you have more experiences. Now it's like, you just need to have a legal budget. Yeah. If you haven't been sued yet, honestly, like, what are you even doing? Yeah. Or at least like threatened to be sued. Yeah. And it just becomes part of the budget. Mm-hmm. But so many things that you don't think about when you're starting a company or building it, that you're like, yeah, I'm probably going to get sued and should have a lawyer just in case, which is good to know. So shifting away from some, work stuff, company building, what are non-business things that you do to keep your mind right? Like, what are you doing to keep yourself healthy and sane?
So like, I had this weird thing happen on Sunday before this wedding that I just went to, where I was like incredibly burned out on our personal life, which was so strange.
Yeah.
Because like, that's not what you normally would expect.
Probably because I just came to your house, brought all four of my kids.
We had just been traveling so much.
Okay.
And that was really what it was. And like, our daughter is like at this weird stage where she's like not two, but already in her terrible twos, and like she's just like torturing people, but she can't express what she wants yet and doesn't really know. So like, I had thought that I had set my life up in this way that seemed to me like if you were looking at it, I like designed what I viewed as like a balanced life. Like I was taking Wednesday mornings off to hang out with my daughter. How wonderful is that? What like startup founder gets to do that? And like went to like 4 different places the last 2 months and did like long weeks, and we're going places, like driving in the car on the weekends when we're not doing that. And like, I just realized at one point, it was like, there was no release built in, especially because like my daughter like is in this stage where it's like also a compression. It's just like all hands on deck. It was a weird moment of like you're asking me how I stay balanced. Like I don't, right? Like it's not like, going on these like really fun sounding exotic vacations. Like my week this week is a total mess. It was a total mess before I left. Like we did 2 short weekend trips the week before. I woke up at 4 a.m. to like work till noon so that like I could get everything done that I like told everyone that I was going to get done. So it's a work in progress. I think one thing that I try, somebody said this to me the other day, and I think it's a concept that I've embraced, but not said with this vocabulary. So it's like, I think I really do appreciate the idea that I can only have like 5 gardens. And like Helen is one of them. Emma is one of them. My job is one of them. Then it's like, what are the other 2? But it's not more. It's like, try to see some friends and try to stay a little bit healthy. I mean, that's it for me. And then, I actually really enjoyed going through that. Like, it was like kind of a devastating moment. I'm just like, why are we, a few times over the last 18 months, it's like, why are we doing this to ourselves? It's like, this is so much harder than it needs to be, or like it should be. Like, but we did it to ourselves. It was like, all right, what of this would I have said no to? And I don't know. It's just, that's a really hard thing. But it's like not the business life. It's like this personal stuff. As all of these circumstances are changing, like, having one kid is so different than not having one kid. And then like having one kid once your partner who actually birthed the child is ready to be super social again is very different than before that happens, and then I think having a second child again, so like, I don't have the answers. I don't know what the like ideal rhythm is for me and for us, but like, I know that I'm going to try to avoid what happened in the last 2 months, but like the 2 months before it, I wasn't really feeling it, in the same way. Nature is a really good thing for me. Like we own this like land in the hill country, and we had told ourselves that we would go camp and leave our phones off and our laptops shut for 3 days each month and 2 nights. And when we do that, it's like you go do that and you could come back and get sued, and you would be in a better mood than if you did not do that and went in on Monday and someone wired you $1 million as a surprise. I experienced that. It's like, no matter what is going on, I just feel so good for like the next week, 2 weeks, whatever. So that's an important thing. I quit drinking almost 4 years ago, which was a really good balance thing for me in my personal life. But yeah, I mean, just trying to like these gardens that I know serve me so well, which is like, family, friends, health, and really work. It also really serves me. Like, it's a grind a lot of the time, but in this moment that I'm in, and in a lot of the moments that I've been in, it's like really a rewarding creative pursuit in so many ways. Just trying to like do things that add energy to my life, and then allocating that attention in this like small amount of categories is my approach.
I mean, I do feel that when I was explaining you to my team members of like, this is why Adam should come on the show. The one thing that I said was, it feels like you choose things that you're actually excited about, at least work-wise, like choose things you're excited about. And you also don't stress that much about it. You're like, we're going to probably make money on this eventually. It's not happening yet. We're not really rushing it, but there's a big vision here. And I'm going to do these things over here because I just like it. And so I feel like how you operate, at least with work stuff, just feels like it's very much just in flow and headed towards, what you're excited about.
Yeah. I mean, that's what gives me energy. Like, I can't imagine being like a hired gun private equity CEO that's like reporting to a bunch of people that have different incentives than me.
Mm-hmm.
That's like thrown into a nasty situation and has to like clean everything up.
Yeah, thankfully
that's like
that's not
opposite,
you.
right? Like that's like the opposite of like what makes me tick.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Adam, this was amazing. Thank you for coming and recording with me in my house. Thank you for being a friend.
It's so nice in here. I'm not leaving.
It's so cozy. This is my house now.
Yeah.
Where can we send our viewers, our listeners, anyone who's tuning in? Where do you want to send them to?
So yeah, if you want to see who's on your website and get their LinkedIn profiles pushed to Slack with a headshot, go to rb2b.com. Very easy setup. And then if you want to hear about all this content I'm making, LinkedIn is the place. Adam Robinson, retention.com. You'll find me.
Awesome. Thank you.